Okay, so here we are once again with another DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is the DC Direct, Mcfarlane DC Direct, Page Punchers, Obsidian. Much like Mr. Bones, I don't see anywhere on this package where it says it's Page Punchers, but I believe it is considered a Page Punchers. It's definitely in one of these annoying plastic boxes like the Page Punchers tend to be. So let's go ahead and open them up. First, we'll have a look at the back of the box here. And even though this is a character that was drawn by Todd McFarlane very early in his career, and they could have picked a piece of Todd McFarlane art to put on here. I believe this art is by Jerry Ordway. At the very least, he inked it. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little phlegmy today. I don't know why. But dang, that's gross. Okay, so we'll stop doing that. But yeah, this is artwork from the Who's Who entry on Obsidian. So Todd Rice and his sister Jenny Lynn, you can see her there. They were the offspring of the original Golden Age Green Lantern and a supervillain known as the Thorn, as in Rose and Thorn. Not the same one that was in Lois Lane in the 1970s and became a Superman supporting character on even into like the post-crisis era. But that character was kind of based off this original character. There were two different Rose and Thorns. So yeah, they were put up for adoption, and well, Jenny Lynn was adopted by a loving couple who doted on her and raised her right. Todd Rice was not so lucky, and his adoptive father was kind of abusive. But eventually, the two twins found each other and had discovered that they had inherited superhuman powers from their parents. Specifically Green Lantern. Apparently, the mystical energies of the ring had incorporated them into Alan Scott in a more permanent way than we thought. Let's put it that way. And his children wound up inheriting some superhuman powers. And Jenny Lynn, as we'll discuss on the next episode, was definitely her father's daughter and has powers that are pretty much identical to Green Lantern. But Todd's powers are a little different. They're kind of the opposite side of Green Lantern. His powers are not based on light. His powers are based on shadow, and he can tap into this mystical shadow realm dimension, and he can he can do Green Lantern type stuff with shadows. So that's pretty cool. He can turn himself into a shadow. He can force people to see the darkness within themselves. And I think maybe that was part of Todd's problem himself. I think that maybe he was using his power on himself a little too much, and that's why he had some issues, because he was very familiar with the darker parts of himself and wound up unfortunately becoming a villain. But he did redeem himself, came back to the side of the angels, was a member of the Justice Society in good standing until he was erased from existence in the New 52. But don't worry, they brought him and Jade back, so they're still around to this day. But yeah, one of the things that apparently was causing this guy some problems, and it was a retcon, but it was something that made sense to me, and even the character's creator, Roy Thomas, he approved of it. Was it turned out he was a repressed homosexual, and eventually came to term with his sexuality, and now lives openly and out as a gay man. So good for you, Todd. Got to be true to yourself if you're not true to anybody else, right? So this has got that. I guess they called it a lithograph. Very thick card like Mr. Bones came with. And this character uses a lot of the same parts that Mr. Bones used, which makes sense because they're both kind of very similar characters aesthetically. And as I noted before when I was talking about Mr. Bones, and how both of these characters were characters that Todd McFarlane illustrated earlier in his career. You can kind of see some of the roots of Spawn in this character. Like, this was a character that Todd McFarlane was obviously pretty comfortable with drawing. So, and I always thought he had a super cool costume. Jade and Obsidian were probably my personal favorite members of Infinity Incorporated back in the day. And I'd noted before that I had a little bit of a crush on Jade when I was a kid. You know, you get your crushes on fictional characters when you're that age. So I got a lot of nostalgia for these two. There's a closer look at that out of the package, and we can see the other side of it, which is the same, but it's in black and white. Set that aside for the moment. And there's the trading card. And there's what the back of the trading card looks like. And it reads, Obsidian, debut All-Star Squadron Volume 1, number 25, September 1983. Real name, Todd James Rice. Height, 5'11", weight, 193 pounds, eyes brown, hair brown. Powers and abilities, transformation into a shadow form, superhuman, strength, flight, size alteration, shadow construct manipulation, allies, Jade, Alan Scott, Damon Matthews. Damon Matthews was his boyfriend, so he was a supporting character in Manhunter, and actually kind of that was where Obsidian's how do you put it, his redemption kind of started there, and that was when they brought him back to being a good guy after being a bad guy for a little bit. So Bobby Wald says, from what I can see, that image on the back looks like a negative photo of the classic Iron Man. Well, yeah, it does actually have kind of a similar structure to it. Like, if you imagine the black parts as being yellow and the blue parts as being red, it does look kind of similar to that. But actually, the funny thing about this costume is that the black parts of it are completely manifested by his powers. And if he wasn't using his powers at all, he's like casting a shadow over his skin there. This is actually just his skin here. He's just wearing shorts, and this part of his armpits are all exposed, and his face is that's his skin there. So we're going to talk about that more in a little bit. But yeah, it's supposed to be like his skin cast into the shadow. So that's kind of interesting. I remember when I first saw him, like, kind of depowered but wearing the costume. I'm like, that's an odd look. I can't believe he turned out to be gay. The women loved him. No, he actually had some very how do we put it? Some very problematic relationships with some women. He had some relationships with some women in the original Infinity Incorporated book, but they never worked out all that well. And that was kind of one of the reasons that it kind of worked pretty well that they had him turn out to be gay, because like it was almost kind of telegraphed. So anyway, there we go. We got all the rubber tabs cut there. Oh, and I got to get these hands out of here, because he's got a few hands. And it looks like to me, these are all the same hands that Mr. Bones came with. Because like I said, this guy is mostly the same parts as Mr. Bones. Which makes sense, because like they're kind of aesthetically similar in terms of their look anyway. Bobby Wald says, oh, it's like his skin, another character that has shorter shorts than Robin. Yeah, probably. Of course, by the time that Obsidian was introduced in Infinity Incorporated, the Earth 2 Robin was a grown man by that point, and he'd swapped to the he'd been like 2 costumes away from short pants at that point. So I guess somebody had to take up the short pants mantle. Adam wasn't wearing short pants anymore. The Golden Age Adam, like his original costume had like leather shorts, and by the 1950s he'd swapped to wearing a more traditional superhero outfit. The original Adam's costume looked almost more like a Mexican wrestler, and then the later one where he had the fin on his head and he had yellow tights. I didn't like that one as much because I felt like it was a little more generic. I actually kind of prefer the more sort of wrestler, strongman kind of look for the Atom, but that's just me. All right, so let's go ahead and get this out of here. Make sure I don't get the cape snagged on anything. And like with Mr. Bones, he's got this nice wired cape. And I believe it's the same pattern as Mr. Bones, which made Mr. Bones' collar a little more rounded off. This is how Obsidian's collar is supposed to look, where it's kind of rounded off like this. And Mr. Bones wound up with a collar kind of similar to this. Now, I was able to bend the wires to give Mr. Bones' collar a little bit of an angle, sharper corners at the edge of it. So that's fine. But Obsidian's, I think, should just stay kind of rounded like this. That's the way. If we you kind of see it on the picture, but you can't see it like quite well enough, I don't think. But yeah, his collar is supposed to be kind of round like that. And the other accessory he comes with, besides his extra hands, is he has this necklace that fits around the collar. And I think, I could be mistaken, I guess it depends on who draws it. I think that it actually is supposed to be a necklace that goes around the cape in the back like that. So I'm not gonna like I did with Mr. Bones yesterday, how I actually pulled the cape through, the whole cape through, and then have the cape placed over that. I'm not gonna do that with Obsidian here. But if I look it up and I see it's that way in the comics, like when I'm gonna look up Jerry Ordway's illustration, because I'm pretty sure he's the guy who designed this costume initially. And if that's the way if he draws it so it looks like this from the back, I'm gonna leave it like this. And if it does actually where you can't see the necklace in the back, I'll put it underneath the cape. But you can see the belt matches up with the necklace. It's that same sort of thing with these kind of rounded metal discs. Very, very unique look. And then kind of to subtly carry it through, he's got these little rounded black spots on his gloves and his boots. So it's like a theme that goes all through this character. And looking at his face, it looks to me like this mask is sculpted to be, well, like a mask. Like mainly if you look at his nose, is the thing, is that his nose looks kind of soft in terms of the detail, as if there's something covering it up. And like I said, this actually isn't supposed to be like a fabric or plastic or leather or anything like that. It's not an actual mask. It's that he's got shadow over his whole face. So really, it should be sculpted just the same way you'd sculpt a guy's face. But this is sculpted almost more like how Jack Kirby would draw Mr. Miracle, where it's like a tight-fitting mask that has like a mouth hole in it and eye holes in it, but it fits over the features of the face, but it doesn't exactly conform to the features of the face. Just kind of conforms to. I mean, you can see the nose and the profile. Now, when they did this character as an action figure in the Justice League Unlimited line, then like he didn't even have a mouth, and it was just like a kind of flat, just with the eyes sculpted into it, but all the rest of the mask was just kind of like flat, like he was Spider-Man or something like that. So that one was definitely way different. And then the DC Universe Classics one, I want to say, was a little more in line with this one. So yeah, he's had action figures before. They didn't do Mr. Bones for whatever reason, but they did do action figures of Obsidian. I think he's probably had more action figures made of him than any other Infinity Incorporated character, with the possible exception of his sister Jade. She might be a tie with him, but yeah, like Mr. Bones, this one mostly reuses the electric blue Superman parts, and we can see that he still has the same cuffs that Superman has. And since I happen to have the classic Superman figure over here still, I can show you what I'm talking about with that. So he's got the same thighs as the classic Superman and the Black Adam Page Puncher Superman that preceded that. The abs look the same to me, and the arms look the same to me, but the lower legs that came from Electric Blue Superman, and we also saw on Wildcat and Mr. Bones. So yeah, Mr. Bones shares most of the same parts with this guy. He's got a different set of thighs because he's got those tall boots, and then he has the extra glove cuffs. And Obsidian has this extra belt piece, and this is a separate piece, just kind of set over this trunk piece. And I don't even know if it's glued on because it's definitely loose in the front. You can see me moving it around, but it does seem like it's kind of stuck at the back. But I don't know if that's because it's actually glued down or if it's just because it's tight back there. We're gonna try to figure that out. Yeah, it looks like it's just kind of it fits really snugly around the waist. So you're not going to have any problem with that slipping. If you let your kid play with it, it probably shouldn't come loose unless like the kid's just curious as how the parts fit together and happens to pull the belt loose. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about these hands a little bit. And like I said, he comes with the same hands that Mr. Bones came with, and these hands also came with Superman. Like pretty much anytime they use this mold for Superman, he also comes with these hands, and these are kind of like flight hands. And I really like these hands for Superman because, especially on the classic Superman, because like I said, I kind of felt like his head was sculpted to look a lot like the way Kurt Swan drew Superman's head back in the 80s. Not like a 50s and 60s Kurt Swan. You'd have to get the Strange Lives of Superman set for that. But this is the way that he looked when I was a kid. But you can see it was definitely intended to be a Superman hand, and especially a Kurt Swan Superman hand, because those two middle fingers are kind of stuck together, and that's how Swan tended to draw hands when they were open. I guess probably just for like an ease thing, he would oftentimes have those two hands, those two fingers in the middle stuck together, because I guess it was easier to draw it that way. But that was one of his little tricks, I guess. So let's go ahead. I'm going to swap out these hands. Because like with Mr. Bones, I actually kind of feel like an open hand is more appropriate on this guy because of his power set. So, and I think that's a great hand to have on Obsidian, and it's definitely like a very Todd McFarlane kind of gesturing hand. You know what I mean? Like you can imagine Spawn doing his hand like that or something. I mean, looking at that, you can see what I'm talking about. How like there's definitely some of the DNA of Spawn came from this guy. Like you can tell that like this is a guy that McFarlane was, like I'd mentioned before, I don't think McFarlane, like in interviews that I read with him, I don't think he seemed particularly proud of his work on Infinity Incorporated. And I get it because it was when he was starting out, and he wouldn't get really good until later. His artwork was decent in those early days, but it would improve in leaps and bounds by the time he went to Marvel. But and then there's the gripping hand. So he's got two fist hands, two of those Kurt Swan looking Superman hands, and a gripping hand and this gesturing hand. So those are the hands that Obsidian comes with. But I can definitely imagine, like, most of those characters probably weren't really in the Todd father's wheelhouse anyway. But when he was drawing this guy, this was a little bit more in his wheelhouse. I can see him drawing Obsidian and kind of getting into that and being like, yeah, this is kind of the zone for me. But yeah, like I don't think it's a coincidence that they reused the same parts from Superman on both Obsidian and Mr. Bones, because they are both kind of similar aesthetic. And that's that aesthetic that Todd McFarlane, that's his wheelhouse right there, is that kind of like, creepy, dark superhero with a big flowing cape. That's his jam. So, I mean, when he created his own superhero, that's what he made, wasn't it? So there you go. All right. Bobby Wald says, have you seen a toy group called Figure Toy Company? They make a lot of characters to be background for wrestling scenes. They have a couple of kids that I was thinking of using for PSA for G.I. Joe. Yeah, Figures Toy Company, like, I know they make a lot of wrestling stuff, but the main thing I'm familiar with them doing is, like, the Mego type figures. Like, they were doing DC Mego figures for a while there until Mego themselves got back the license to do that type of figure, and they did a lot of sitcom characters. I think like maybe like 20 years ago or so. Like they were doing like the Brady Bunch and the Munsters and Happy Days and things like that. And I had seen recently in some of the GI Joe groups, some of the guys had a police officer figure that Figures Toy Company made. That they were using with their GI Joe figures, and I was kind of interested in that. I was kind of interested in picking that up. So maybe sometime soon. Maybe sometime soon. But I got a lot of stuff to cover right now. So Bobby Walt says they might go well with McFarlane scale. They're in 7-inch. Well, yeah, like I'm probably gonna try to pick one up sometime soon if I can. And if I do, obviously I will have them on this show. So we'll go ahead and have a look at that. So anyway, let's talk about the articulation on this guy. So Obsidian can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Man, that's a good head tilt there. There's the other side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and they got that cool Mcfarlane butterfly joint there, so they can move around pretty well. He's got a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. Oh, yeah, his arms raise up to the sides about that far. There we go. He's got a double jointed elbow. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbow. And like I was pointing out, Mr. Bones yesterday, he had that glove cuff that kind of got in the way of that a little bit. But our boy Todd does not have that. Todd McFarlane, Todd Rice. Didn't even make that connection. Okay, so, but that's a coincidence because McFarlane wasn't drawing the book yet. That was still Jerry Ordway when they revealed his name. So he's got the cool McFarlane wrist articulation. So the wrist rotates all the way around. Got a hinge on it. You can move this wrist pretty much any way you want to. God, I love the McFarlane wrist articulation. It's so good. I'm going to miss it when Mattel takes over this license. I genuinely will. Bobby Wald says the G.I. Joe Legacy officer went up on Big Bad Toy Store. Oh, did it? I didn't notice. Well, I'll have to go ahead and pre-order that because I definitely want to get that one. So yeah, he's got that cool McFarlane torso articulation, moves from side to side about that far. You can bend back about that far, bend forward about that far. We've talked about this buck a lot on this show. It's not the most frequently used buck, but of course it was originally designed to be Superman, so you can get some really good flying poses out of him because of that. And of course, Obsidian can fly, so get him into some cool flying poses. Since his father is Green Lantern, I'm gonna get him into what I think of as being the Green Lantern flying pose. And yeah, it's more of a Hal Jordan thing than an Alan Scott thing. But if Gil Kane was drawing Alan Scott in like a guest appearance, he'd probably still draw him in the same position. That's a very Gil Kane sort of flight pose, almost more like he's leaping through the air, if anything else. But yeah, that looks pretty cool. I like the maybe his collar looks a little goofy. We'll put his collar back a little bit when he's flying, so like it's being swept by the wind or something. Yeah, that looks cool. I like that. So yeah, and then of course the torso rotates all the way around where the rib cage meets the abs, but that's kind of a tight fit, and I accidentally popped them apart there. We'll pop them back together. There we go. And then rotates all the way around where the abs meet the trunks. Obsidian can kick up about that far, pretty decent range of motion as far as kicking up. Got a little bit of wobble here, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to speak of. Got a double joint knee. That's about the range of motion you get at the knee. And man, did I ever get him into a fabulous pose there. Like I wasn't even trying for anything, but yeah, that is I promise I'm not trying to invoke a stereotype. He just wound up being posed that way. I would never make fun of a gay person for being gay. There'd be no point to it. But yeah, his foot can move up about that far, move down about that far. He doesn't have a boot cut, but he does have the cool McFarlane ankle articulation. So the ankle rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. We got a lot of good motion out of that. And then he's got toe articulation just to show off. So this is a really cool figure of a really cool character who I've been a fan of for a long time. Like I said, in the earliest days of reading Infinity Incorporated, he was one of my favorite characters from the beginning. Him and his sister, who next episode, that's who we're going to be talking about. I bought her months ago and never got around to opening her. And one of those things where I was kind of like, I got her and I was in the middle of some other kind of theme. I got her around the same time that I got Bizarro and Cyborg Superman. So that should show you how long ago I got her. But I got kind of distracted onto some other stuff. I was in another theme, and I set her and Bizarro aside. And for the longest time, I think I almost kind of forgot that I had them until I would see them. And I got around to opening up Bizarro when I did all those Superman villains, but Jade, I was like, well, I'll just have to hear her afterwards. And then I get distracted with so much stuff on here. So but it worked out pretty well, because then I noticed I had a whole stack of Green Lantern characters that I would just kind of slowly accrue. And I was like, hey, Jade is connected to Green Lantern. I can open her with all the other Green Lantern figures. And I was going to do that a lot earlier, but then I saw this guy up for pre-order on the Mcfarlane toy store. And I'm like, well, I have to get Obsidian, because one of the things that I said when I got Jade was like, oh, Jade, that's awesome. I hope they do Obsidian too. And then they did. So then I'm like, well, I can't open Jade yet, because obviously I want to open Jade and Obsidian back to back. So Jade's just going to have to wait. And if Jade's part of that Green Lantern group, then the Green Lanterns are going to have to wait. You see, like, maybe I put too much thought into this. Maybe I just overthink all of this. But it's going to be really cool when I open up Jade tomorrow, and I can take some pictures of these two together. And hey, Alan Scott, I've got him down here, don't I? I think he's down in my box of stuff. Dig around here for a second, see if I can turn him up. Of course, he might be on the other side of the room, because I know I took some kind of Justice Society picture. Yeah, I took that picture when I got the Wonder Woman, the Golden Age Wonder Woman figure. I took that picture. So yeah, Alan Scott's on the other side of the room right now. So tomorrow, when I open up Jade, I will. I won't have any pictures of Todd and his dad together today, because I don't want to go all the way over to the other side of the room right now. So, but tomorrow, I promise I'll take some pictures of Jade and Obsidian and Alan Scott all together, and you can bet you'll find those on my Instagram. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I post a lot of cool pictures over there. So it's probably worth looking me up if you enjoy seeing my pictures of action figures. If you enjoy seeing action figures posed in front of the old Superpowers Hall of Justice playset, that's the Instagram page for you. I'll tell you that right now. But anyway, I think that's it for Obsidian. Like I said, next episode, we're going to be opening up Jade and talking about that character, another character that I have a great amount of fondness for. And if you want to make sure you don't miss that, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Obsidian, both the character in general and this figure specifically. Like I said, he was one of my favorite Infinity Incorporated characters from the very beginning, and I kind of feel like the character development that he got over the years only made him a more interesting character. And I was pretty irritated when they did New 52 and they decided to make Alan Scott gay, because then he didn't have kids anymore. And I was like, hey, you already had like a really cool gay superhero right here, like one of the coolest gay superheroes. Like this guy's like my absolute favorite gay superhero. Like no, without doubt, he was one of my favorite superheroes. Like already, like he was already a character that I liked, and like when they made him gay, like, well, then he's my favorite gay superhero. So now he's and I do think it's important to have representation. Obviously, Like I'm not trying to be woke or anything like that, but gay people read comics. They should have a gay superhero. Like John Byrne said when he was talking about how he created North Star and intended North Star from the beginning to be gay. It was because he'd read an article in a magazine that said something like 10% of people are gay. And he's like, well, if 10% of people are gay, there should be a gay superhero. so so that's why I kind of feel it. That's the reason. It's not any kind of politically correct, like, woke kind of reason that like I say that like there should be there should be characters that are gay or black or Jewish or whatever. It's that there's people in real life that are gay or black or Jewish or whatever. And if those people are reading comics, shouldn't there be a character that that they can relate to in that way? Like, I'm not saying like a black guy can't relate to Captain America or a white guy can't relate to Luke Cage. I certainly can relate to Luke Cage. He's one of my favorite characters. But when you got something in common with a character, then it kind of brings you a little closer to them. And it doesn't even have to be anything like that. One of the things I love about Captain America is that he draws and I draw. So that's like, hey, Steve's kind of like me. He likes to doodle every now and then. That's pretty cool. I liked on Smallville that Lois Lane was into hair metal because I'm into hair metal. So that's something like I kind of felt like I had in common with that version of Lois Lane. So it's always good to have stuff in common with characters that you appreciate. And one of the things about Todd Rice was like I said, he had kind of an abusive father, and I had kind of a rough relationship with my stepfather who recently passed away. And thankfully, me and him were able to, make amends. But at the time, seeing a character that had kind of a rough relationship with their father, it was something that I kind of felt like I had in common with this guy, and I think that's why I kind of liked Obsidian and felt a little bit of a kinship with him at that time. But I've grown a lot since then. He's grown a lot since then. We're both in better places now, aren't we? Aren't we, Todd? Yeah, I think so. All right, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.